Hello guys, it sure has been a while, and I'm sorry, first and foremost. So where have I been? I've just been really stressed out and life has just been kicking my ass the last couple of months. So, Pokemon. What can be said about this franchise that has not already been said? Catching and training creatures to use them in battle is a great idea, and that really shows. With over 800 different creatures to use, all being different to each other, of course the designs of these guys can become questionable. We got so many that almost everything is a Pokemon. And with Generation 8 on the way, there will be even more. Maybe getting to 900 Pokemon, which is really impressive. But some games have enemies and creatures that look a lot like Pokemon. So why not make a series about exactly that? I got this idea from one of my favorite YouTubers of all time, Silacock. He made a video about the top 10 Kirby enemies that would be better than Pokemon. So I started thinking about other games that could have a creature that looks like it could be in the Pokemon universe. Then Pikmin came to mind. Some enemies are really similar to Pokemon. For example, the male Sheargrub and Grubbin are very similar. And what about Shelder and the Cloaked Baronet? And it looks like Leavanny could be from Pikmin. You see what I mean? So I want to make a series about this and find potential Pokemon in other games series. And in the first episode, we got the Pikmin franchise. Note, this series will mainly focus on design. And for each pick, I will try to make a logical typing, as well as a potential moveset for the creature. And with that being said, here's the top 10 Pikmin enemies that could be a Pokemon. Let's start the list simple. From Pikmin 3, we have the Bearded Emperor. This enemy is found in the distant tundra. Appearance-wise, it looks relatively harmless. Once it spots the player though, it will generate electricity in its beard and rush towards the player, eating any Pikmin in the way. So an obvious electric normal type. Normal because it has clear signs of being a rat, like Rattata, so this could be one of those early rodent Pokemon. Potential moveset for this thing could be Headbutt, Discharge, Wild Charge, and Thunderfang. It's a really simple design, but I really do like it a lot. Next up, we have an enemy you meet very rarely, but it's one annoying bastard. Here we have the Antenna Beetle from Pikmin 2. Yeah, you know that enemy that kept screwing you over? Yeah, that guy. This enemy can't kill Pikmin in any way. It is a really fast little creature that creates a force field. If any Pikmin ends up inside the field, the Pikmin will follow the beetle, ignoring your commands. This is dangerous because other enemies might get the chance to kill the Pikmin while in the beetle's control. Other than that, he's kind of a pushover. He runs away whenever he can, only to try again seconds later. So for typing, I went with Bug Psychic for this guy. Bug because, duh. And Psychic because it has the power to trick Pikmin into thinking that it's the leader. It would be a really fast Pokemon, but quite weak, kinda like Ninjask. For a moveset of this guy, I went with Extreme Speed, Psychic, Quiver Dance, and of course Bug Buzz. Because it's the craziest buzz you've ever heard in your life. Yeah, it's a really freaky little thing that would be a really cool Pokemon. And I gotta apologize for the footage, cause I really did not get a lot of it. Now, let's go all the way back to the very first Pikmin game. Unlike the sequels, this game have optional boss fights. 3 of them. Mamuta, Gulix, and my number 8 pick, the Smoky Frog. The Smoky Frog can be found inside an egg in a distant spring. After day 15 you can no longer fight him. Destroying the egg will make him appear. At the start he don't target the player, instead he just goes straight to your base, killing any Pikmin sprouts that are in the ground. I would consider this to be the very hardest boss in Pikmin 1, so he leaves a trail of poison wherever he goes. And in the first Pikmin game, poison is an instant kill, and white Pikmin wasn't a thing yet, so yeah, this guy was kinda hard. But if you did manage to kill the prog, you would be rewarded with a gold pearl that would give you 100 Pikmin. So yeah, this thing is quite dangerous. I would say this would be a pure poison type Pokemon. And for movesets, well, he is poison and leaves poison trails. So mainly just poison moves. Toxic, Smog, Sludge Bomb, and Poison Jab. And I guess it's just the eyes, but this gives this guy the ability Intimidate. Because, I mean, if Masquerain gets Intimidate, and if freaking Starly gets Intimidate, I mean, at that point, everyone can have Intimidate. I mean, have you ever seen a Starly and been all like, oh wow, that's really scary, I better not get close to that thing? No, you didn't. It's cute. It's one of those Pokemon that you want to have for yourself. So, why on earth does Starly have Intimidate? Well, Game Freak, I guess. So yeah, the Smokerprog is way more intimidating, so it will definitely have the Intimidate ability. Now let's stay in Pikmin 1 for one more entry. Most likely the first boss you face is the Armored Cannon Beetle. This is a boss you meet twice. Once in Forest of Hope and the other being in the Distant Spring. There's no difference between the two encounters, but here's how he works. Once he spots the player, he will suck in some air and launch a boulder at you, squishing any Pikmin in the boulder's path. And that's all the attacks he really have. To defeat it, you have to throw a Pikmin in the hole he sucks in air, thus disrupting his attack. He will then open his shell so you can deal some damage on him, and for some reason he is steaming hot. So for typing I went for Rock Bug, but the steam from his body made me unsure to give him the fire type, but I stick with Rock Bug. He will have a massive defense stat since his shell is impenetrable, and he would be able to hit hard with moves like Rock Wrecker and Smackdown. Other moves he could have are Rollout and Steamroller. This might be the only bulky Pokemon on this list, or the only bulky entry on this list. But hey, Pikmin don't have a lot of bulky stuff anyway. Pokemon sure have a ton of water-type Pokemon. In the real world, water creatures are the most amusing to me and interesting, and my favorite sea creature is the Manta Ray, which we already got in Pokemon, being my favorite Pokemon from Gen 2, Mantine. But Jellyfish is also one of the most amusing creatures I know of, and we got that Pokemon. In Gen 5 we got Frillish and Jellicent. They were just fine, I guess. I mean, I still really like the two Pokemon, but I just wanted a little bit more. Introducing the Jellyfloat. Now this is a proper jellyfish. The Jellyfloat floats around in the air. Once Pikmin go under it, they will be sucked inside the Jellyfloat. If they're inside for too long, the Jellyfloat will consume them. They come in two variants, the lesser Jellyfloat and the greater Jellyfloat. The difference is that the great Jellyfloat don't only suck Pikmin inside, but they can suck you inside of it as well. One more thing to note is the noises they make. I know it may be kinda weird, but they sound like they're from space or something. I could listen to that for ages, and I don't know if it's just the ice, but let's go with a Psychic Water type. The moveset for these guys would be Hypnosis, Psychic, Bubble Beam, as well as Whirlpool. It's a proper jellyfish design. If Frillish and Jellicent was see-through, then I would love them even more, cause that's one of the things I love the most about the Jellyfloat. They are see-through, just like proper jellyfish. So that's the reason why I really want these guys to be Pokemon, because they're jellyfish and they're actually see-through, so that would be a really cool Pokemon. And I also really want to talk about my favorite enemy from the Pikmin series. So yeah. What do you get when you combine a slug, a cow, a fork, and a plant? Well, essentially you get one of these things. These are the Toady Bloisters, and my second favorite enemy from the Pikmin series. I really like water creatures, okay? But this is by far the most bizarre creature from Pikmin, or any Nintendo game if that is. They are slugs with something that looks like a turnip sticking out of their back, acting as a tail and their weak spot. When it spots the player, it will attack by sticking out razor sharp things. This is what I refer to as the fork, by the way. And they also scream like a cow as they do so. But not there just that, but one of the bosses in Pikmin 2 is one of these, but just a lot bigger. The only real difference is that the Raging Blaster will target whoever is in the lead, if it's Louis or Olimar. And in Pikmin 3, he got quite the redesign. Now, the things that I refer to as forks essentially now has turned into tentacles, and he will also spew out poison when he is attacked. Quite an interesting creature to say the least. If Pikmin 3 did not give him a poison attack, I would have no idea what the typing would be. But water poison for this guy. And for movesets, after thinking long and hard, I came up with this. Acid Armor, Smog, Guillotine, and Bubble Beam. Pokemon have their fair share of bizarre Pokemon, like Claydol, Sigilyph, Cragonal, and Naganadel. Wow. But I think the Toady Blaster fits well with these other weirdos. Have you ever realized there's just one Pokemon that is pure flying type? When I first discovered, I got quite surprised, and the Pokemon to have this typing was Tornadus. Let's add another one. Here we have the Puffy Blowhog. This guy has been in Pikmin 1, 2, and 3. He flies around, not really doing much. For attacks, he will blow towards your army, sending your Pikmin flying, as well as blowing off any flowers on the Pikmin's heads, thus downgrading them. As they blow towards your army, they will scatter all your Pikmin, so they can be an easy prey for any other enemies nearby. So yeah, together with other enemies, this guy can be quite a pain. As stated earlier, I want this guy to be a pure flying type. And he will be a true balloon Pokemon. I mean, Jigglypuff is considered a balloon Pokemon, and it just looks like a cute ball with a face. But the Puffy Blowhog is actually a balloon, so this would fit the description of a balloon Pokemon way better than Jigglypuff. As movesets are concerned, I came up with this. Tailwind, Hurricane, Air Slash, using the back spikes, and Aerial Ace, also using its back spikes. The Puffy Blowhog doesn't really do much, but it's the design I just love so much. And it's one of those designs you will just never forget. You see one picture of a Puffy Blowhog and it's in your mind for all eternity. But yeah, the design of this guy is the reason why I want this guy to be a Pokemon. Many animals use camouflage to survive in nature, and they're really good at it. So some Pokemon would get that treatment, like Kecleon. But that's not who I'm gonna talk about. Stunfisk, as lovely as it is, use the idea of just hiding itself in plain sight, and I really think that's a cool idea for Pokemon, because Stunfisk is the only one that camouflages by just being him. We could have something based on a Mudskipper maybe. Or how about a giant Colossus hiding at a grassy field in a large mud pit? Yeah, this is the Quaggle Microlops, and he is huge, and in my opinion, the hardest boss in Pikmin 3. And he can do a lot of different stuff. From the start, its weak point is protected by a crystal, where you have to use rock Pikmin to break it. It got 3 legs standing high above you. He can walk around potentially crushing Pikmin. But the most dangerous part is wherever he walks, he will create a little puddle of water, where Pikmin can drown, if you don't pay attention. To get him down, you have to damage his legs enough so he falls down. From there, you can finally damage him. But he can still eat your Pikmin as a giant tongue can come out. When he gets back on his feet, he will try to get you off by lifting his leg. Near the end of the fight, he'll get an attack where he goes nuts over the entire battlefield, creating a really large puddle, giving you a little room to operate. So yeah, this guy is pretty hard. I put his typing as grass ground, if it wasn't obvious enough. Grass rock would also work, but I went with grass ground. This guy would have a large move pool. Friendship Plant, Ingrain, Head Smash, and if it wasn't obvious enough, Earthquake. I mean, Diglett gets Earthquake, and he's not even half a meter tall. I mean, how could this thing create earthquakes? Well, if something on the size of a sketchbook can create an earthquake, I'm pretty sure that the Quaggle Microlops can as well. He is a bit on the over-detailed side, but just cut down the details and he will be a really cool Pokemon. And he really reminds me of Metagross, so the potential is definitely there. What was the first game that really scared you? For me, the first terrorizing moment in my life playing video games was in the submerged castle in Pikmin 2. I want to share the full experience, but that can get its own video. The Water Wraith is my favorite boss in all of Pikmin, because of my memories with it. In the submerged castle, from the second floor and onward, the Water Wraith could appear if you spent too much time in each floor. If you did spend enough time there, he would arrive and he would roam around and you could not kill it, and he will go around the entire floor. And he would be there until you moved on. In the final floor you have access to purple Pikmin that can stun him, so you can finally kill this terrifying thing. His only attacks are just to roll around and crush Pikmin. After killing it though, he doesn't really die. He just loses his wheels and he starts running away like a little kid. Stopping him to do damage will result him in just hiding before just running away again. His body is made of some form of liquid, and his wheels are made of stone, so water rock type? Well, not really. The wheels are not a part of him. Just like Timber is not grass type, even though he uses a wooden beam. So I'm left with a water monster, and the ghostly appearance of this guy makes me lean on water ghosts. I looked this guy up on the wiki and I found this. The Water Wraith's name is a combination of water, given his watery appearance, and wraith, which means ghost or phantom. And some suggests that the liquid he's made of is ectoplasm. So yeah, water ghost type. For moveset I went with Phantom Force, Water Pulse, Rollout, and Fierce Tears. Call me biased, but I really do love this guy. And having a Pokemon made purely from ectoplasm seems like a really cool idea for a Pokemon. Before we go on to number 1, let's take a look at those who did not make the list that I definitely wanted to have on the list. Dandlefly, Honeywisps, Puffstool, Guelix, the Peckish Astro Crab, and pretty much the whole Beady Longlegs family. I did put Beady Longlegs on the list, but I realized that that enemy does nothing but walk around. I pointed to Raging Longlegs as a potential pick, but it's just as boring to talk about. The only thing being that he got like 1,000,000 HP, and when your army looks like this, well... You get the point. It takes forever and it doesn't do much. But with that being said, here's my number 1 pick. And my final pick for a potential Pokemon in the Pikmin series is the Behemoth Fosbat. Now, why would I choose this guy as a number 1 spot instead of any of the other picks? Well, this is the creature that looks most like a potential Pokemon to me. So, let me explain. The Behemoth Fosbat is the second boss in Pikmin 3. He is a moth inside a dark cave. To defeat it, you have to power some light bulbs that will disrupt him, giving you an opportunity to attack. Through the fight, he flies around while you try to power the bulbs. He can swallow a Pikmin while he is still in the air, as well as releasing spores when he gets attacked. Halfway through the fight, he will summon his kids. These are just called the normal Fosbats, and these could act as a pre-evolution for this guy. He can also camouflage into his environment, but only if it's dark. So for typing, I went with a typing that no other Pokemon have. Bug Dark. So yeah, Bug Dark. Bug because it's a moth, and dark because it lives in dark caves. I honestly can't believe that there's not a single actual Bug Dark type. I mean, the idea of bugs living in caves is a perfect idea for such a typing. So the fact that we have not gotten a single one kinda baffles me. Here's what I got for the moveset. Spore, Foul Play, Infestation, and Camouflage. All of these moves are things that he actually does throughout the fight. So yeah, this guy is number 1 because he really have a lot going for him. First and foremost, he has a unique typing. He have moves that very well complements his actual game style. He summons his little minions, acting as pre-evolutions. And there's enough information going on to make a full Pokédex entry about this guy. So yeah, I chose this guy for number 1 because there's a lot of potential here. He could very well just be a Pokemon, you know? So that's why I picked him as number 1. And there you have it. The top 10 Pikmin enemies that could very well be Pokemon. This was a ton of fun to make, so let me know if you liked it or not. I also need suggestions for other franchises. Mario and Zelda are on my mind, but I need some more, so please let me know in the comment section if there are some franchises you want me to cover on this topic. So I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye. And hopefully that won't take like half a freaking year.